This is Eddie Muller, welcoming you back to Noir Alley, otherwise known as the scene of the crimes. Now, not coincidentally, that's exactly what I have for you today. Scene of the Crime, a noir-stained police procedural from 1949. Now, more darkly stylish crime dramas were released in 1949 than any other year in Hollywood history, making it the high watermark of the film noir movement. Since 1944, every major studio had produced at least half a dozen films a year that could be considered noir, with RKO, Columbia, Universal, and Fox especially prolific in that regard. The one studio that had almost no investment in gritty crime dramas was Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. At MGM, crime was relegated to the studio's moralizing Crime Does Not Pay shorts, produced with the endorsement of the FBI. Studio boss Louis B. Mayer kicked and screamed in protest when his studio produced, in 1946, the seminal noir story, Postman Always Rings Twice. Now, even though it was a huge hit, Mayer had little interest in following it up with more lust and murder. His preferred product was uplifting comedy and bouncy musicals, rendered with all the glitz and glamour that was the Tiffany Studios' trademark. But all that changed in late 1948, when Doree Sherry returned to MGM after several years as chief production executive at RKO. Sherry's taste ran to tough-minded crime movies. He liked them because they provided exciting plots on which he could hang topical, sometimes politically charged themes. And since they were relatively cheap to produce, return on investment was virtually guaranteed. Now, after Postman, MGM had produced one film, The Arnello Affair in 1947, that could remotely be considered noir. But in 1949 AD, after Doree, MGM produced Act of Violence, The Bribe, Border Incident, Caught, Mystery Street, Side Street, Tension, and Scene of the Crime. More a policier than a true noir, it tells the tale of a hard-bitten homicide detective out to avenge the death of a fellow cop. Now, nothing could have been more emblematic of MGM slipping into darkness than the role of dogged flatfoot Mike Conovan being played by Van Johnson. The actor's boy-next-door image had made him a carefree idol to millions of Bobby Soxers. This persona had been carefully crafted by MGM in a series of lighter-than-air musical comedies, which typically cast Johnson opposite sunny co-stars such as Esther Williams and June Allison. So there was something weirdly subversive about seeing Johnson's boyish, freckled face shadowed under the brim of a fedora and the actor cracking hard-boiled dialogue like Alan Ladd's kid brother.
You hip-pocket bookie. The killer was out to knock over your poker game there. And if it hadn't been for Monaghan, you might be sirening away with blood pouring out of you.
Now, Louis B. Mayer might have been apoplectic, but Johnson, like any actor eager to prove his dramatic chops, bit into the role, hoping to expand his casting range. Hey, it worked for Dick Powell, Dennis O'Keefe, and John Payne. Why not Van Johnson? But the casting switcheroos didn't stop there. The pivotal role of a burlesque dancer with a figure like champagne and a heart like the cork went to perky little Gloria DeHaven, who up until this had been the studio's female equivalent of Van Johnson, a vivacious, sweet-faced ingenue rarely called upon to be more than delightful in lightweight fare like Thousands Cheer, Two Girls and a Sailor, and Step Lively.
Buy me a drink.
Are you thirsty?
No.
If audiences for Scene of the Crime were taken aback seeing Van Johnson as a tough guy, imagine what they thought when Gloria DeHaven slinked on stage for a prolonged striptease. Now, her character and her number were clearly inspired by real-life burlesque queen Lily St. Cyr, whose trademark was stripping in reverse. She'd emerge from an ornate bathtub almost nude and sexily put on her clothes. Now, under normal circumstances, it might have been expected that the alluring ecdysiast would be played by the cast's other female lead, Arlene Dahl, who certainly had the figure and the attitude. Instead, Dahl portrays Lieutenant Conovan's nervous and nagging wife, who spends the entire film begging him to quit the force and stay home.
Mike, if you love me, and I know how much you do, please don't try to stop me, darling.
Now, Doll is, without question, the most gorgeous and glamorous wife any movie cop ever had. But then, this is MGM. All this jumbled up casting may have been an attempt to inject a few surprises into what is admittedly a fairly predictable storyline. It's based on a factual article about the LAPD called Smashing the Bookie Gang Marauders by John Bartlow Martin, the only thing he ever sold to the movies. The screenplay by Charles Schnee plays a bit like a Western, which isn't surprising given that Schnee was a scriptwriter on Howard Hawks' classic Red River. Now, he came from a Wyoming ranching family, earned a law degree at Yale, but quickly dropped all that nonsense for a career in Hollywood. Now, it may seem somewhat predictable now, but at the time, Schnee's script earned an Edgar Award for Best Motion Picture Screenplay from the Mystery Writers of America. Released in 1949 and directed by longtime MGM stalwart Roy Rowland, here is Scene of the Crime.